The confrontation between the United States and Iran has entered a new and potentially decisive phase 1, defined not by the exchange of missiles, but by the relentless application of economic strangulation, military positioning, and psychological pressure designed to force Tehran into a corner from which there may be no dignified exit. With ceasefire talks suspended, no dates set for their resumption, and threats flowing freely in both directions, the world is watching a carefully calibrated American campaign of maximum pressure reach what President Trump himself has described as its most critical juncture yet. President Donald Trump has delivered his clearest and most detailed warning to date about the consequences Iran faces if it continues to refuse a negotiated settlement on American terms. Speaking to reporters on Friday, Trump outlined a scenario that goes beyond military strikes and naval blockades, one that strikes at the physical infrastructure underpinning Iran's entire oil-dependent economy. He explained that the American naval blockade of Iran's shipping lanes is creating a problem that Iran's oil production system is simply not designed to handle. Iranian oil fields, he stated, are continuing to produce, but with export routes blocked and storage capacity severely limited. That oil has nowhere to go. The resulting pressure building within Iran's production infrastructure could, Trump warned, cause irreversible underground damage to the oil fields themselves, damage so severe that production capacity, once lost, could only be partially restored. He estimated its recovery at approximately 50% at best. The implication was stark and deliberate. Every day, Iran refuses to negotiate. It is not simply losing revenue. It is potentially destroying the long-term productive capacity of the natural resource that underpins its entire national economy. Trump made clear he feels no urgency, stating publicly that he is operating without time pressure while Iran is not. The strategic logic is simple and brutal: wait long enough, and Iran's options narrow to the point where the cost of continued resistance exceeds anything a negotiated agreement could demand. Trump also reiterated that any agreement reached will be implemented strictly on American terms and only if it serves the interests of the United States, its allies, and global stability. The era of negotiations conducted as equals, in his framing, is over. America is negotiating from a position of overwhelming military and economic superiority, and the terms of any deal will reflect that reality, reinforcing the weight of Washington's position. The United States has deployed a third aircraft carrier strike group to the Middle East, a development that military analysts are describing as the most significant concentration of American naval air power in the region since the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The USS HW, one of the most powerful aircraft carriers in the American fleet, departed its home port at Naval Station Norfolk, Virginia, on March 31st, and has been making its way through strategic sea lanes ever since. The carrier transited the Cape of Good Hope and the Strait of Muscat before entering the Indian Ocean and proceeding toward the U.S. Central Command Area of Operations, a journey of approximately 1,150 miles from its departure point. The ship travels with a full destroyer group, including the USS Doane and USS, along with Destroyer Squadron 22, based in Norfolk, and is supported by the Fast Combat Support Ship, USNS Arctic, which provides continuous underway replenishment of fuel, ammunition, and supplies to keep the carrier group fully operational across extended deployments. The carrier requires frequent course changes throughout its journey to support continuous flight deck operations, maintaining the ability to launch and recover aircraft around the clock, day and night, regardless of sea state or operational tempo. Notably, the USS HW took an unconventional routing to reach its operational area, avoiding the traditional path through the Strait of Hormuz, the Mediterranean Sea, and the Suez Canal. American planners opted instead to route the carrier around southern Africa, bypassing the Bab el-Mandeb Strait between Yemen and Djibouti, a narrow, contested waterway that has been deemed a security risk given the active Houthi threat to commercial and military shipping in that corridor. The decision reflects the complex and multi-front nature of the security environment American naval forces are now operating in. The arrival of a third carrier strike group brings the total American carrier presence in the Middle East to an historically significant level. the USS Abrams, has been operating in the Arabian Sea since the beginning of the year. The USS General Ford, currently on an extended 300-day deployment, recently entered the Red Sea. And now the USS HW completes a 3-carrier formation that collectively represents hundreds of combat aircraft and thousands of naval personnel positioned within striking distance of Iran. For context, the last time 3 American aircraft carriers operated simultaneously in the Middle East theater was during the height of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. The message that deployment sends to Tehran, to the region, and to the world requires no translation. Behind the scenes, the military preparations being made are even more pointed. Iranian state television, citing sources familiar with American operational planning, reported that the U.S. military has prepared an emergency strike plan targeting Iranian air defense systems deployed in and around the Strait of Hormuz to be activated in the event that the fragile ceasefire collapses entirely. While Defense Department officials declined to provide specifics citing operational security, they confirmed that all military options remain available and reserved for presidential decision-making should the situation require it. In the meantime, American naval forces are maintaining continuous maritime patrols throughout the Strait of Hormuz and surrounding waters, with specific focus on intercepting Iran's fast attack craft, the small, missile-equipped speedboats that represent Iran's primary remaining naval offensive capability following the destruction of its conventional fleet, as well as monitoring and neutralizing coastal threats that could disrupt the passage of commercial shipping through the vital oil corridor. The posture is one of active, sustained deterrence designed to keep the strait open for global trade while simultaneously maintaining the capability to escalate decisively if Iran makes any move to close it by force. President Trump has added a new dimension to his public pressure campaign, directly targeting the perceived unity and stability of Iran's leadership. Speaking to reporters, Trump claimed that Iran's senior leaders are engaged in deep internal conflict fighting, in his words, like cats and dogs, to determine who holds real power in the country. He suggested that the combined effect of American military strikes, the naval blockade, and the economic strangulation of Iran's oil sector has created such intense internal pressure that the Iranian leadership has become fractured and confused, uncertain about its own chain of command and unable to make coherent strategic decisions as a result. Trump went further, suggesting that the United States may be willing to give Iran additional time specifically to resolve its internal power struggles, framing American patience not as a sign of diplomatic flexibility, but as a tactical calculation that a disorganized adversary is less capable of negotiating effectively than a unified one. Iran's leadership responded with immediate and emphatic denials. A social media account believed to belong to Supreme Leader Mehdi Balani posted a direct rebuttal, warning that the enemy is attempting to destroy Iran's national unity and security through psychological warfare, and calling on the Iranian people to resist these efforts with vigilance and focus. Iranian President Hassan Rouhani declared publicly that there is no division between hardliners and moderates within Iranian politics, that all factions consider themselves Iranians and revolutionaries first, and that the country's unity around the supreme leader remains absolute and unshakable. Those sentiments were echoed by a series of senior Iranian officials, including the Speaker of Parliament, the Chief Justice, and Foreign Minister Amir Arab, each emphasizing institutional coordination and collective resolve in the face of American pressure. Iran also pushed back on Trump's characterization of Israeli strikes as having undermined its stability, arguing instead that its response to those attacks demonstrated the disciplined unity of a state that integrates military capability and diplomacy as a single coherent strategic instrument. Whether these public declarations of unity accurately reflect the internal reality within Tehran's leadership circles, or whether they are the kind of carefully managed messaging that governments typically produce, precisely when internal pressure is at its most acute, is a question that outside analysts cannot definitively answer. But the speed and coordination of the Iranian response to Trump's comments suggests that whatever divisions may or may not exist, the regime retains the organizational capacity to present a unified public face. The escalating military and diplomatic tensions between Washington and Tehran are registering with immediate and significant force in global energy markets, a development that carries economic consequences far beyond the boundaries of the conflict itself. According to reporting by CBS News, Brent crude oil has risen to approximately $107 per barrel, while West Texas Intermediate, the American benchmark, has pushed above $97. Both figures represent the highest oil prices recorded since the initial ceasefire between the United States and Iran was announced earlier this month, suggesting that the market's brief period of cautious optimism has given way to a more sober assessment of where this conflict is heading. The price movements, ranging from 1.5% to 5% in recent sessions, reflect growing investor concern that the Strait of Hormuz, through which approximately 20% of the world's daily oil supply may face renewed and sustained disruption as the ceasefire deteriorates and the prospect of resumed military hostilities increases. Every tanker seized, every warning shot fired, every diplomatic breakdown pushes energy prices higher, and every dollar added to the price of a barrel of oil is felt by consumers, businesses, and governments across every economy on Earth. The energy market is, in this sense, functioning as a real-time barometer of the world's collective assessment of where this confrontation is heading. And right now, that barometer is rising. What the current face of the US-Iran confrontation reveals, above all else, is the gap between tactical dominance and strategic resolution. The United States has achieved an extraordinary degree of tactical success, destroying the majority of Iran's conventional naval capability, seizing millions of barrels of Iranian oil, deploying 3 carrier strike groups, maintaining control of the Strait of Hormuz, and imposing economic pressures severe enough to threaten the long-term viability of Iran's oil production infrastructure. And yet, Iran has not surrendered. It has not returned to the negotiating table. It has not accepted American conditions. Its leadership, whatever internal tensions may exist, continues to publicly project defiance and unity, and its retaliatory actions in the Strait of Hormuz, the seizure of third-party vessels, the firing on commercial shipping demonstrate that it retains the capability and the willingness to impose costs on the international community, even from a position of severe military degradation. The countdown that President Trump has described as real. Iran's oil infrastructure is under genuine and mounting pressure. Its economy is contracting, its military has been severely degraded, and the arrival of a third American aircraft carrier closes off whatever residual doubt Tehran might have harbored about the depth of Washington's commitment to this confrontation. But countdowns in geopolitics do not always end the way those who start them expect. The question that will determine whether this crisis ends in a negotiated agreement or a resumed and potentially catastrophic military escalation is not whether America has the power to force Iran's hand. It is whether Iran's leadership, facing the full weight of that power, will ultimately choose to negotiate or to resist, whatever the cost. That answer remains unknown, and the world cannot afford to wait long for it.